Welcome back to the Truck Show podcast. Once again, coming to you from the Pod Shed in lovely Huntington Beach, California. Hope everybody had a great Easter holiday and spring break. And I am back from Utah in my actual redemption run. Can you believe it's been a year since the accident? I guess if you went back and listened to me about 9 months ago, I sounded a little bit different than I did today. And it's been just incredible. The progress that I've made, being in Moab, seeing everybody, all the hugs, all the high fives, the handshakes, the industry, just makes me feel alive to have that experience and have so many people care about Marin and I. And it was great. And even better, the weather was beautiful. The Jeep worked flawlessly. I'm feeling good. I'm keeping busy. Things are continuing to improve. And again, people have asked how I felt making the drive, and honestly, no ill effects or issues. I drove right by that spot. I'm like, not today. Although I do want my AirPod back that's sitting over there at mile marker 1, I-15 North in Utah, if anybody ever finds it. Yeah, I mean, really the only thing that sucked was I wish I had Marin with me on this one. But she was at home, and she didn't come. But it was great. It was I needed it. It was great to be out on the open road. It's great to be in Moab. Great to see everybody. Great. I can't use that adjective enough. I feel good, and there's a lot of stuff going on right now that I'm just super thankful for. And for those of you asking about her, we just posted a video on my social, and you can go to @Sean_P. And she definitely wants to come back on the podcast soon. So she says that she's going to make a post on Podshed Insider, ask Marin anything, and then she'll come on and answer it. So I think that's pretty cool. But one of the cool things about being in Moab is I finally took the Jeep off-road for the very first time, first dirt. The new Bilstein 8100 DSA shocks are flat out amazing, so they were great driving out there. But when I hit the dirt, you never know. You never know if there's going to be sharp edges or, if they're going to be too soft and wallowy or what. These things are perfect. Having the dual speed adjustments on the DSAs allowed me to dial it in for the weight, and I'm just like butter. Things that I thought would hit the bumps not only didn't hit the bumps, but were like buttery smooth and then, rebounded from there. It was great. Can't wait to get some more off-road miles on them. I've got plenty of on-road miles, a couple thousand, and they're fantastic, but having that adjustability is huge. So Shane from Bilstein will be on the show in a future episode to talk about the technology in them, and we'll talk about my experiences with them down the line. And I believe those are available. The Tacoma versions are even better because they have RCOs and JCOs, the rebound cutoff and the jounce cutoff. So essentially internal bump stops within the shock on both the rebound and compression sides. They're even better. So if you're a Toyota guy, it's just an amazing shock. And on the Jeeps, I helped them prototype the 2-tube bypasses on the JKs, and they were phenomenal. One of the best sets of shocks I've ever had on a Jeep. But these are even more flexible because the Jeep has such limited up travel. The last part of that bypass zone, when you get into the hard compression, you are into it too easily. You don't have enough room, and there's a very short amount of travel or stroke for them to dissipate the energy. The DSAs that I have on the new JL, not the 2-tube bypasses 8100s that were on my JK, but on this one, they work throughout the entire stroke, and it's just I think it's better for the way the Jeep suspension cycles, and especially on the 392 with limited up travel. They're just great. So now that I'm back, I've been super busy. I'm still finishing up that KC battery install so I can get the American Adventure Lab drawers in. I just got the powers hooked up to it, so I plugged in the solar today. Stay tuned. There'll be some social around that. It is unbelievably awesome. The AAL shelf with the KC battery is going to be a game changer. I think I mentioned it before, but Britt at American Adventure Lab is trying to design it so there's a retrofit kit to anybody who has a current cargo shelf who could use that 105 amp hour KC battery, which is a monster. I think with full sun doing like 150, 160 watts of input, it still took like 5 hours to fill that sucker up. But it's crazy how much power I have on board now. So the next thing is to get the wiring bundles all buttoned up. Solar's working, alternator charging from the Jeep is working. And then I got to wire up all the outlets and lights and accessories through the Total Vehicle Management System, Redarc's TVMS. But I've got the Alpha 50R, which is their BCDC, which is the battery charger, and then it also manages the solar input, the alternator input, all that stuff. And then I've got the Rogue TVMS, which allows me to use an app to turn things on and off and manage it. And there's also a screen that American Adventure Lab takes the Redarc screen and they cut out their backing plate, and then it mounts to the back of that. So that's super cool because the screen allows me to work on, from the back of the vehicle, or I can do it in the front of the vehicle on the app. So either way, it's got Bluetooth. I was so excited. I fired it up. No faults, no issues. Everything ran the way it was supposed to. Apparently got all the fuses from the wiring gauges right and all that stuff. So that's super excited. I'm hoping to get this phase of the build wrapped up so that we can debut it at Casey's open house right before Overland Expo West in Flagstaff, Arizona in a few weeks. So lots still to do before then, but as soon as the power part's buttoned up, then I get the fridge slide, the drawers, and all that stuff going into the Jeep as well from American Venture Lab. And we're so close. We're so close. And then I can start hitting the trails and having fun again. So it's been fun. I love building things for the most part, although it sucked a lot of free time. Be happy when it's done. But speaking of Easter Jeep Safari, I had a great conversation with Jeep designer Chris Piscatelli. So we'll have him on this episode. We talked about all the Jeep concepts that they unveiled this year. And I'm excited to report that after meeting with Jeep in Moab, the Jeep team that's currently together, they are some of the old guard, some of the people that were taught by the old guard, people who were at other brands and came back to Jeep. And it's the right mix of people. They're protecting the brand and coming out with some really awesome products. And coming out with great stuff is a high priority. The right people are in play. So I hope you'll enjoy this interview with Chris. But before we get started on that, some of you might have heard I have a new job with SEMA. So more accurately, the Off-Road Business Association, or ORBA, which SEMA bought last year. And I have been quietly helping them on the marketing side since October, but it was just announced last month that I am now the interim executive director of the Off-Road Business Association, or ORBA. So that's pretty much a full-time job, but you'll help me out if you have a business or a shop or a nonprofit or a club. Please give us a follow on social at Off-Road Business Association to keep up with what we're doing. I'm trying to grow the social on that side. And basically, this is a great job for me, stable. I'll still be doing the podcast. It's going to be a lot of work, but it's also something that allows me to pivot a little bit and use my skill set in a different way and kind of give back to the industry and help keep your lands open. This is a nationwide deal. I'm based out of the Washington, D.C. office where the government affairs and legislative is. We're going to be doing a bunch of stuff in D.C. and also in local capitals. We've got a bunch of stuff here on the West Coast in Nevada, Utah, California. I just think it's going to be great, and we're going to make ORBA this sort of the shining light that brings all the fragmented groups together in land use and things like that. So don't be surprised if we have some more legislative updates or land use stuff for my ORBA job. So anyway, I feel like I've turned the corner. It was kind of bleak for a little while there with not a lot of work coming in, and things were pretty quiet, and trying to go through recovery and get back on my 2 feet, and feel like 25 is gone in the rear view. 26, we're turning the corner, and feel so blessed for all of that because it's been a long year. So before we get started, the Truck Show Podcast is proudly brought to you in partnership with AMSOIL, the maker of the best synthetics and the same ones we use in our rigs. Of course, AMSOIL is more than just synthetic oil. They make some of the finest lubricants, greases, additives, filters, car care products, and yes, even merch. And did I tell you? AMSOIL signed on for another year. So you're going to hear a lot more about AMSOIL. And if you go to truckshowpodcast.com to the featured products page, you'll see that we have our own special AMSOIL link. So all I ask is if you do get AMSOIL products, that you please use our link so that we get credit for those sales and keeps AMSOIL happy. They've been such an amazing partner, and I'm so stoked to have them for another year. And of course, we use AMSOIL products to protect our rigs, and you can do the same by heading to amsoil.com. And as of today, I believe they have a brand new promotion. You get a free USB charging cable if you use the code CHARGE426, and that is on the AMSOIL website. Please use our link. And this applies to any order, $100 or more. Exclusions do apply. You can find out all the details. Again, amsoil.com. If you need a knife, then point your browser to kershaw.kaiusa.com and explore the company's line of exceptional pocket knives. They have a huge selection of quality knives from EDCs and ones made in America. And yes, even automatics. Score one for yourself today. And lastly, if you want to treat yourself to the latest adventure, gear, and upgrades for your vehicle, go to OVRmag.com and use the code @TruckShowPodcast for a discount on print or 1 year access to our digital library for free. Please help me to keep the Truck Show Podcast free by supporting our sponsors or leaving reviews on Apple Podcasts or Spotify. And don't forget, check truckshowpodcast.com for the latest deals from our friends and sponsors.
The Truck Show. We're gonna show you what we know. We're gonna answer what the truck, 'cause truck rhymes with show. We have the lifted, we have the lowered, and everything in between. We'll talk about trucks that run on diesel, electricity, and on gasoline. The truck show, the truck show, the truck show. Oh, oh.
It's the Truck Show with your host, Holman.
While we listen to the theme song fading out, prepare yourself to hear from Jeep designer Chris Piscatelli, which we recorded last week in Moab for Easter Jeep Safari. And first, I think we need to hear a proper jingle.
It's the inside job, baby. Yes, it is. It's the inside job now. It's the inside job, baby. It's time for you to share what you do.
Welcome to the show, Chris Piscatelli. All right, so I'm sitting in rainy Moab, Utah. Normally we'd be driving all the concepts. Most of them this year were open air, and it's basically been pouring rain all morning in Moab. So forgive me that I'm sitting in the Gladiator with Chris Piscatelli, and you guys have had beautiful weather all week. And then when it comes time for me to go drive and see all the concepts, it's like...
You brought the rain, man.
Was that me?
Yeah, I'm blaming you. No.
So it was funny. So you guys always kind of do like the preview of like, hey, media, here's all the concepts. Mm-hmm. And then I'm involved in a lot of different like media groups, like automotive media professionals on Facebook and some of the other, and people are like, oh, they only had 6 cons. Oh, these guys, they totally went light this year. And then, like, I've been around long enough. I know there's always a but wait, there's more. Mm-hmm. And there's a couple of those here. So I just wanted to grab you real quick and talk through some of the concepts this year, because there's a couple really awesome ones. We're looking at the AMSOIL 715 with that new front end, but that thing is awesome. And being in the overland space, I appreciate the Safari top, the windows, just the overall like way it looks and the way it's built. So let's start there.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, so I mean that one again, it was kind of about some of the overlanding kind of attributes, right? We wanted functional roof carrier, right? So different mounting system. We wanted that high top, right? So you got to get a little bit more, and that's one of those ones that we'll continue to kind of play with. Like I wanted to see what we could do as far as the inside, and in some of the past rigs we've done like kind of almost like bimini tops inside to throw things inside of. This one we were going to do that, and then because we perforated it and put some skylights in there, we were like, well, instead of stacking all the sleeping bags and stuff up there, let's run 1.0 with just kind of being able to see how much light there is, because when you sit in the back seat especially, you're like, wow, this is
it's
monstrous.
Huge. Like so a Wrangler already for its size has a pretty tall roof line. I mean, you can get a 6'5" guy in here, and maybe he's complaining as he hits his head on the back of the speakers or something. Yeah, but overall, like, you could wear a cowboy hat in here, no problem. Oh yeah. So it's not the roof height; it's just that it feels kind of squishy in here. Like it's just not as bright. And I'll be honest, I kind of like it. Like, I have on my AEV Jeep, the inside of the top's painted black. Right. And I like that. Like, I'm getting in my dark little cave and I'm looking out. Sure. But then when you sit in like the AMSOIL 715 with the skylights and it's full bright, you're kind of like, well, this is a totally different experience. It absolutely transforms being a passenger in that thing.
Absolutely. And it's even the color we went with, like, again, we considered black because, again, it's like, maybe it's kind of, the whole vibe is militant, and it's got these greens and it's dark. And then we're like, you know what? Let's go orange. Let's do something. Let's do something weird. It looks like we like tumbled through an REI catalog, but it's kind of a cool. It's an interesting play on between the natural light and just the kind of emitting color, the reflective glow you get from that, was something that really kind of played off of some of the other color and trim that we used in there.
Well, let's face it, Jeep is always about fun, and when you get in a lot of these concepts, you guys have been known for putting smiles on people's faces with fun textures and colors and Easter eggs. And, it was something that Mark Allen started a long time ago, and 100%. Mark's been on the show a bunch of times, and, he and I are good friends. And when he told me that he was retiring, I was worried, and you and Vince and the rest of the guys have absolutely taken that torch and there's no momentum shift in what you come up with and the ideas, and to see a new group of guys that are younger, new ideas, fresh ideas, looking at, textures and colors, outdoor space, still keeping the Easter egg thing alive. All of that is so on brand, and I'm glad that none of that changed, but I'm happy to see that you all get to put your own little twist on it.
Sure. Yeah, I mean, we learn from the best. I mean, Mark was one of my personal mentors. I came in 2013 and almost immediately started, I was working on a production car, and then he kind of brought me into the fold of the EJS rigs, and we have a very similar sense of humor. So,
yeah.
So the two of us, vibe really, really well together. And as
did he also threaten to punch you in the throat?
Always.
Okay.
It was yeah.
He texted me and he says, "When I see you at EJS, I'm going to give you a big hug. You." And then I'm going to punch you in the throat. And I go, "Hey, I got titanium there. Don't hurt your hands, old man." So he and I had a old-fashioned together the other night, and
nice.
So it was good to catch up with him. But it's always nice to be here in Moab and get accosted by Mark.
Yeah, no, we went out wheeling the other day, and it's always great, to catch up with him, because this is kind of our meeting place. We get to hang out, and he's doing retirement right. He's just enjoying life, and so it's awesome to get to kind of hang out with him, because otherwise it's just us texting stupid to each other,
all the time,
making fun of each other and whatnot. Yeah. So no, it's to your point, it's really cool to be able to carry that torch. My success I attribute to standing on the shoulders of giants, before me. Scotty and him put this thing together years and years ago.
Yeah.
And to me, starting as a designer doing this, and kind of transitioning into being the ringmaster of the Moab effort from a design standpoint, it's an amazing opportunity, and it was a learning curve to realize that most of the stuff that I'm able to ask for forgiveness for instead of permission for is because of the way I learned from him, and because I think I've been able to kind of adapt to.
That was a philosophy of his. He's we're just going to do it, and they're either going to like it or they're going to hate it, and if they like it, they'll forgive us. If they hate it, well, they don't really have a choice, because we already did it.
For sure. I mean, it's been a blast, working on these things, because they're a passion project. They are,
absolutely,
and there's tangible benefits to doing this. We get to gauge things. They're a beta test. We get to see how people like colors, how they like elements, how they like design cues.
Well, I mean, if you go back in time at all the EJS stuff, you can point out several things that were the precursor to production. I can 100%. Think of, there's the front end that ended up on the mid-cycle action for the Jeep Cherokee that was debuted at EJS. There's certain colors. Anvil was debuted. Earl was debuted at EJS, right? And then there's other little things, whether they're Easter eggs, whether they're an idea of a feature, whether it's just a little hint and nod, and maybe the production thing that comes out of it isn't quite the same.
Sure.
But that's the genesis of where it started. So people have been doing this a long time, like me. You can kind of walk around and go, I see what they're doing here. And to your point, when you were sort of doing your speech to the crowd that's assembled here to see this, like, these aren't necessarily production intent, but these are questions that we're asking. And everything that you guys do, whether it's production intent or not, is still done with an OE purpose in mind. Like, it could 100%. Be production. And so that's what's special about these, is not only are they special and one-off and cool, but they could be a volume thing, and you drive all these things. Right. None of these are showroom queens. You come out here, you use them. There's concepts that are out here from 15, 20 years ago, still roaming the trails because it's fun to get people out in it.
Oh, yeah. We were wheeling Lower 40 the other day, and that rig is got to be almost 20 years old.
Yeah, I remember when Lower 40 came out. I got a picture of Mark and I in one of the first 392. It was a 6.4 JK covered in sand. I've got Pork Chop was because of my magazine build, and Mark drove it with me, and he goes, "How much does this thing weigh?" And it was a first generation JK, 4-door stick 3.8.
Oh, okay.
And it weighed like 6,200 pounds. And so when Mark, the year after, Mark says, "That one's for you," I go, "Why?" He goes, "Because I rode in the Jeep you built. It was too damn heavy, so we built Pork Chop." And so there's all these like fun little through lines and stories that happen through the concepts, or how you guys come up with it. Sometimes it's just a stupid interaction like that inspires you to do, next year. And there's somebody needs to write a book about where all these vehicles came from, because
For sure.
there's so much hidden in the details that probably will never be known, because it's stuff.
Oh yeah, well, and
very hard.
it's funny you mentioned that. Like I was saying the other night, what started, the rewind concept last year started by me and Vince talking about like everybody
Rad,
says
by the way. It's so rad.
Well, it's one of those things we say. Everybody always thinks that, including us, when we say Jeep, and we're always the freedoms and this and that and the World War II machine.
Yeah.
And what Jeep meant to someone that's my age, and I'm 45, and Vince is the same age as me, and so we were like, it'd be kind of funny to build an EJS rig that was all about freedom, but when you say freedom, it was more like, freedom,
mixtapes.
So,
Well, I totally get that, because I'm 48, and so when Rewind came out, and it was, Rain, which is purple, and it had, was it the teal, hot pink stripes on it. I'm like, I would never buy that, but it reminds me of like my Jam shorts and, back in the day. And I'm like, I totally resonated with it. I'm like, I 100% get what they're doing. And when you look at some of the other manufacturers who might go and do something retro, you guys clearly have the pedigree to do something retro. But you totally did it in your own way, which is rad. And rad is the exact right word for that thing.
Right on.
And now that the 12 for 12 got revealed here as that Rewind is coming out as a limited edition package for this year, how cool is that? Something that you guys built just to have fun is now going to be a package a customer can buy.
It's very cool. It was super cool to see the reaction that we got from that, and then even the reaction we got the other night when we showed that we're actually doing it. It was like, all right, this is cool, and yeah, it's not for everybody. Definitely not for everybody.
But I get it.
Yeah,
and it puts a smile on your face. It's funny. You can show something about, and I know Mark used to joke about it. You guys have talked about it. There's the Skittles collection, which is the bright colors, and there's the vinyl siding collection, which is like the military and functional colors. And either works with the Jeeps, but there's something about a purple, a pink, a yellow, a red Jeep. When you drive by a 5-year-old kid on the street, he stops and smiles. Yeah. And like, if you have a car that you can just drive and do nothing else and make little kids smile, that's pretty special.
I agree.
There's not very many vehicles out there, like maybe a Ferrari or Lamborghini or something like that, where they're like, oh, cool. But Jeep is so unique in that space where I can't tell you how many neighborhood kids, when I drive by, just stop and go, oh,
Yeah, I mean, for a mainstream product to be able to take the risks, like you said, that only other, products are exotics.
Yeah.
Whether it's colors or, to that point, these buzz models, which are, just these ideas, and they're fun, but I don't know that many companies could get away with it, because I don't know that many companies have the same sense of humor that we have and enjoy what we do and want to kind of pass that on,
Like, let's face it, it's corporate, it's business, but there's a certain level of latitude that you guys are afforded because of who you are in the company and the history, and that must make it so special to be at Jeep versus being at maybe even some of the sister brands, but also, the competition out there. They're just not doing these types of things. This is so unique to this brand and so different from what the rest of the industry does.
Oh, yeah, it's a passion and enthusiast driven brand. I don't know that I could ever work for a brand that wasn't.
Yeah, that would be hard.
After being like here for 13 years and being able to experience and do what I've been able to do, and just seeing the outward kind of the reactions that the product gives the consumer, to go and given the opportunity to work for a company that doesn't do that, I don't think I could get with that. It's just meh.
Yeah. It would just be death. Yeah. It sounds like the worst thing ever.
Oh, God.
All right, so Anvil 715 came driving by. We talked about that a little bit. It's based on a 392 AV rear bumper, but it's been painted. It's just a little, plussed up a little bit. Super cool. Dig it.
Take a special look at the gas tank too when you get a chance.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right, and then also the roof racks, super cool on top of the Safari roof with the skylight windows. The other thing out here that's kind of cool, that's different. So when the Wagoneer came out, I was at 4-Wheeler Magazine, and we asked for the off-road package, and at that time you could get a steel spring version with 18-inch wheels.
Right.
And we could not believe how well that thing off-road, because we were all like, I know it says Jeep, and it sort of shares with the Ram platform, but it's IRS. God, how good could it be? We wheeled that thing in our 4-Wheeler of the year. I think actually won SUV of the year that year. And I think it might have been the last year we did it before the magazine was closed down. Maybe that's why, I don't know. But it wheeled so awesome, and it was so good off-road. I've always wondered, like, and you guys have teased a couple versions of it, but this year seems like the best version of 34s or 35s. 35s.
Yeah.
Still IRS, still has all the Wagoneer luxury. But to me, it's the one that you have a vehicle, you're in a national park, you want to take the family on the back roads.
100%.
It's not necessarily like I'm going to go rock crawling in it, but it is going to be like, let's go to Joshua Tree, or let's go to, what's another great park? Maybe Yellowstone has some back roads. Death Valley.
Yeah.
You could totally take the family, have all the room for your gear, and go exploring all the backcountry. No problem in that.
Yeah, it was. We were looking at it in the sense of, and again, that's why I mentioned I didn't want to build a rock crusher out of it, because at the end of the day, that's not what that is about, right? Or that truck is about.
Yeah.
But it is like, I want a little bit more capability. I want to test that, and honestly, my hope to gain out of that when we first talked to Rockcrawler about it was to see when we got it back. I was like, man, is this thing just going to be a rattle trap? Is it going to feel tall and goofy and